Rob, the Great and Terrible.
Rob, the Great and Terrible. June 7th. Oh, what luck! Providence at last! You see, I had wandered off into the woods by the old witch's house and foolishly lost my way. I was there for, well, who knows for how long exactly. Time seems to pass differently in these woods. Some nights felt like they went on for years, while other times days seemed to pass in the blink of an eye. Perhaps the witch is to blame. Perhaps it was merely hunger and thirst wearing down my body and mind. No matter. I can't quite recall what brought me into the woods, nor how I survived this ordeal. It's all a bit of a blur, to be honest. I've heard terrible stories of the witch in the lands by her home, and though I would have laughed at it all prior to this little excursion, I would not be so quick to laugh it off now. Such unspeakably terrifying things haunt the area. I could hear them. Every night, in the complete and total darkness, I could hear a whispering of sorts. It's hard to describe, and my God, does it still give me the chills. But it was almost like a whispered song. So many voices, all in unison, asking of me things I would rather not mention. I couldn't hear the actual words, but what came upon those whispers was more ideas than words. Suggestions, commands. Sick, depraved, and disgusting. Oh, the visions those whispers would bring. I still shudder. This attempted rendering of my mind. But I am saved, and that by the unlikeliest of heroes. A man made of straw, a man made of tin, a creature that more so resembles a lion than a man, a dog, and a beautiful woman. She is surely the most beautiful of any creature, anywhere. I'd heard them talking just outside the woods, and having followed the sound of their voices, I was able to finally find the exit to my purgatory. I ended up back on the brightly bricked road, just a few yards away from where they were resting. I could not contain my excitement and ran to greet them. So exhausted I was, I practically collapsed into the woman's arms. I must have startled them all quite badly, but they were kind. They had food, they had water, and most importantly, they had pity. Imagine my surprise when they told me of the journey that they are on. They're off to see some wonderful man of magic in the big city. And imagine my gratitude when they invited me to come along. I feel that this may be the start of some grand adventure. Perhaps the start of something more? The woman smiled so warmly when I agreed to join their party, and such beauty in that smile. I wonder. I know not what awaits for me in the city, but I don't care. Anything is better than those woods and those wretched whispers. June 11th. What a journey so far! I've seen such amazing things traveling with these people. Such wondrous fauna, such spectacular species of animals, and the most beautiful night skies. Such a delightfully strange pairing we all make. The man made of straws, not very bright, but he's always able to make us laugh with his constant telling of bad jokes. The man made of tin is as serious as the straw man is comical. He may be considered practical to a fault, and I suppose you could say he's the leader of the group. He often stays up most of the night, keeping guard over wherever we may be camped. He carries with him a small wooden box containing a gift of sorts, one made of magic. Inside of this box is an actual, living, honest-to-goodness heart. He guards this box quite carefully, and would not let me see the contents, but when he brought the box close to my ear, I could actually hear its steady beating. He says he has big plans for this heart once we make it to the city and meet the wonderful man of magic. He would not say what those plans were, and I did not care enough to inquire. The man-lion is quiet, with barely a word spoken through our journey thus far. When he does finally speak, he is so soft-spoken that you must lean in very closely to hear him. Apparently, he is more timid man than courageous lion, if I'm to be honest. He is easily frightened of all we've seen and heard, but nothing seems to scare him quite as bad as Toto. Toto? Why, that's the dog we are traveling with. Truthfully, I detest the animal. She's a wretched little bitch, all snarls and growls, and only with me. Perhaps she'll warm up to me eventually, but as of right now, the dog dislikes me, and I dislike the dog. And finally, I've saved the best for last. We are traveling with a woman, and oh, she is by far the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Dorothy. Her name is Dorothy. What words could I use to describe her? Would I say she's sweet and kind? Would I call her exquisitely beautiful or painfully gorgeous or some variant of such? I could call her special. I could call her unique. And none of these words would do her justice. I simply lack the vocabulary. When it comes to describing Dorothy, it is I who seem to have a head filled with straw, and maybe a stomach full of butterflies. June 13th. Such grace. I ache, I sweat, I long in ways I've never known. As lost as I am in her beauty, I shall try to describe my feelings for Dorothy as best I can. We have spent countless hours on this road to the city, and all through those hours we have talked of so many different things. I feel as if I've really gotten to know her, and I simply adore all that I know. She had so many questions for me that I was just unable to answer. I don't really remember much of my past. I never bothered to give it any thought until she started asking. It's so strange, but I can't seem to recall anything before my time in the woods. So I lied. I had to. I had to tell her something. I had to have an interesting story so as to be of interest to her. And there was no way I could tell her about being lost in the woods. It would have raised far too many questions. Questions that I, unfortunately, just don't have the answers for. What exactly was I doing by the witch's home? What had brought me there? And how did I end up lost in that haunted forest? Oh, I certainly couldn't tell her about that part. She would have likely banished me from the group. You see, everyone believes those woods to be cursed on account of the wickedly witch who lives close by. Some say that the witch had cast a spell over the land. Others believe that her very presence has soured the ground. I've even heard that those who have incurred her wrath are banished to wander forever in those very woods. They say whoever enters into that forest has no hope of returning, and yet, here I am, as alive and healthy as ever. How? I mean, I certainly feel fine. Maybe more than just fine. Having escaped such despair and meeting her, I feel like maybe I'm in love. I'm in love with Dorothy. I love her so. I love her absolutely. I love her to pieces. June 19th. She feels the same way. I am almost sure of it. Her smile says it all. When she smiles at me, I can see her true feelings. I see such warmth, such goodness, and what looks to be an invitation, though I am far too shy to yet make my move. But I also see trouble. trouble with straw, and trouble with tin. Not in what they say, for they say very little to me these days. The trouble lies in all that is unspoken. I see their nervous glances when I approach Dorothy for anything. I see them looking in my direction and whispering about me when they think I'm not looking. I see them plotting against me, against Dorothy and I. Cowards. I'm offended by their distrust and angered by their fear. And all for what? What have I done to warrant any of this? Do they know? Do they know of my time in the woods? How could they? I mean, how in the hell could they? And why should it matter? I've been having such terrible nightmares as of late. I can't remember anything upon waking other than some vague and disjointed pieces. Slaughtered animals. A woman dressed in all black with the voice of a crow. Dorothy, my sweet Dorothy, screaming for me to stop. But stop what? I fear I may have been talking in my sleep. Lord knows what I may have said, and what straw and tin might think of me. And the whispers are back, as are the visions that they bring. Enough! These things are better left unwritten. June 23rd. Dorothy and I are in love. Of that there is no question. Though neither of us have spoken the words aloud, I can tell how she feels. I have seen it in her eyes, and I have read it on her smile. I even heard her whisper it to me in a dream. I wonder if she knows how I feel for her. I adore her, and fear that this wanting, this desire, this lust cannot be contained any longer. Oh, I want her so. The sight of her beauty, the sound of her voice, the smell of her hair and skin. All I think of is her touch, and how badly I want to taste her. All day and all night, oh, especially through the night, I think of her. Lips and hips and fingertips and... But all is not well. Oh, no. The man of straw and the man of tin will not allow us to be. Dorothy is forced to guard her feelings and temper her reactions when either one of them is close at hand. Just the other day, I finally worked up enough nerve to reach for her hand while we walked. But when she saw the man of straw close by, she had to pretend as if she did not see my hand reaching for hers. She nervously accepted the bouquet of flowers I had picked for her. She has even taken to walking far ahead or behind me, so as not to upset straw and tin, or her wretched dog. Before, she used to have the man of tin carry the dog, when his barking and growling became so strong that her and I couldn't even have a conversation. But she must have finally seen what I have known all along. The man of tin is jealous. He has feelings for her, and Dorothy, as sweet as she is, doesn't want to hurt his feelings by telling him of her love for me. So now she is forced to hold the dog at all times. Every time I suggest that she hands that awful dog to the man of tin, she laughs awkwardly and insists that she doesn't mind carrying him. She tells me that her and I will speak later in the evening when the dog has gone to bed. She has to lie and pretend and mask her feelings for me just to pacify the others. The jealousy of these animals is destroying our unhappiness. It is unfair. It is unfair. June 24th. A thought. Perhaps things are not quite as they seem. Perhaps these friends of Dorothy's are not friends to her at all, but enemies. Perhaps there is a reason I met them all when I did. Perhaps I am here to save the woman I love. Consider. The man of tin travels with a box essentially full of magic in the shape of a heart. Where does this magic come from? How did he come into possession of that heart in the first place, and to what end? Who gave him this magic? Was it the witch? Questions, and not much in the way of answers. Somehow the heart beats louder. I've laid awake the past few nights listening. I tell you, whatever cursed magic the man of tin possesses is a danger to Dorothy and I. I have yet to tell her, but I think she knows. And I think it frightens her. I see her face, her smile, has changed as of late. She looks so worried, so scared, so distrustful. Oh, how my heart beats and breaks and swells for Dorothy. I don't think it to be a coincidence that as the heartbeat grows stronger, so do the voices inside of my head. The whispers have grown to screams, and I can no longer stand idly by and risk harm to my dear Dorothy. They are all against us, from dog to tin to straw. Dorothy may not yet see them for what they are, but I do, and I will protect her. I love you, Dorothy. I love you to pieces. June 25th. I realized my purpose in a dream. I dreamt that Dorothy and I were lost together in the woods by the witch's house. Something was after us, and we had ran frantically until we found ourselves in a small clearing, seemingly right in the middle of the forest. In this clearing stood a door, just at the opposite end of where we were standing. Where that door had come from and where that door would lead, I could not know, but I had such a strong sense of foreboding. We must not open that door, Dorothy. Hold my hand and stay with me, and I will protect you, my love. I heard a noise from deep in the woods behind us. I instinctively turned my head to look, but found nothing, and when I turned back, Dorothy had left my side. I hadn't noticed when she let go of my hand, nor could I figure how she had crossed the distance so quickly from where I stood to the door on the other side of the clearing. She had her back towards me, and I could not see her face. I couldn't see her reaction when the sound of the door unlatching broke the silence around us. I couldn't see her face when the door slowly started to swing open, and I couldn't save her. The logic of a dream is always so certain. It is never easily explained, but in the throes of a nightmare, you just know. I knew she was in danger. I knew I would lose her. I knew this was the end, and I knew my heart could not abide the loss. Oh, how my heart ached. How I cried out for her. I pleaded, I screamed, and I begged for my love. Dorothy, please. Dorothy, look at me. Come back, Dorothy. Come back, please, Dorothy. Don't go. You don't have to go. And in a voice filled with such despair, in a voice choked by sadness and gasping for the air of the one I love, in the voice of love and loss, I tried to yell strongly but could only sob weakly. Please, Dorothy, I love you. I awoke. I know I had heard whispers coming from behind the door in my dream, and now I hear them all around us. I know what it means, and I know what I must do. June 26th. Can't sleep. Again, and again, the sound of the heartbeat, the whispers, the dog and the tin and the straw and the whispers. I want Dorothy, and she wants me. Please, Dorothy, don't open that door, Dorothy. I love you. I love you, 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 Dorothy. I love you to pieces, Dorothy. June 26th. The whispers. Whispering whispers whisper a warning. They warned me. Her name. Dorothy. They said her name. To me. I have to save Dorothy. And they showed me how. June 26. Dorothy! I saved you, Dorothy! I saved you, and I saved us, and I saved you, Dorothy! You're safe with me, and now we can be together, and Dorothy is safe, and I saved her, Dorothy! Dorothy, I love you, and I told you to stay away from that fucking door, Dorothy! Dorothy? June 26.
I am dying and I'm bitter. His heart was so bitter. I'm death and maggots and worms, and the maggots are dying inside of me. The door has been opened and we are dying and dead on the other side of the door. And Dorothy's crying and I'm dying, and the door.
June. It is finished. The whispers are gone, as are tin and straw and lions and dogs alike. It is only Dorothy and I, though she is, well, I imagine she's a little bit angry for one, but she's also, well, it's hard to explain, but I shall try. Simply put, I saved Dorothy's life. I believe that all things happen for some reason or another, and there is no question in my mind that the two of us, having met when we did, was for this reason. To see her goodness, to fall in love with her, and to ultimately save her from the evil that she had surrounded herself with. The man of tin watches through the night, but some part of him is human, and some part of him needs sleep. So while he slept, I made my way slowly and quietly over to where Dorothy lay. I had planned to gently wake her, and together we would sneak away and leave the rest of them behind. But the dog, that wretched, snarky fuck of a dog. As soon as I got close enough to lay a hand on Dorothy, the dog awoke. She was surprisingly quick, and before I could even think, the dog was on all fours and growling. It bared its teeth, and had I not reacted so quickly, it would have barked a warning and inevitably woke the rest of the camp. I grabbed its throat to silence its pathetic whimpering. I squeezed harder, still, until its eyes were so large from fear that it looked like they would simply fall from its skull. I brought Dorothy's dog to my chest and squeezed harder still, until the fight drained from its body and its pathetic shaking had stopped. I don't know if that sound was the breaking of its back or of its neck, and you can never know how much that sound pleasured me.
For you, Dorothy.
Everything happened so quickly after that, I hardly had time to relish the moment. The man of straw, apparently feigning sleep, had seen the entire thing. He shrieked and threw himself upon me, and as we both tumbled to the ground, the man of tin and Dorothy both awoke. Dorothy screamed. Through it all, I don't think she had ever stopped screaming. I don't even think she stopped to breathe. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but straw can never hurt me. But I know how to hurt straw. Fire was obvious, and in a way, fire was fitting. That this glorified bundle of hay should think itself capable of extinguishing the flame of passion between Dorothy and I. He was to learn, in more ways than one, that some things are just destined to burn. No great struggle, no long and drawn-out duel to the death, oh no. Just a small push into the campfire, and the hungry flames devoured him.
For us, Dorothy.
The smell was stronger and lasted much longer than his screams. If I close my eyes and breathe deeply, I can almost smell it still. Not at all unpleasant. The man-lion never even attempted to save its friends. He ran off in the other direction as soon as he saw my bonfire. More snake than man, more mouse than lion. Stop screaming, Dorothy. This is almost over. The man of tin approached, slowly. He had a rock in hand, as if he thought a stone against the side of my head would be enough to stop me. I remember smiling to myself. The man of straw was supposed to be the dumb one, and yet the man of tin never even thought to use the axe he carried. That axe, as it just so happens, was lying uselessly against a nearby tree, so I picked it up and put it to very good use. The first swing found the blade lodged somewhere between his chest and stomach. He bled, though it was not blood. It wasn't quite oil either, but something thicker and darker. It poured and pooled around his feet, and still it never stopped coming. He was not leaking pints. He was gushing gallons. The blade was stuck, and it wasn't until I pushed him down and placed one foot on his lower stomach for leverage that I was able to finally dislodge my revenge. He may have tried to call out, but I couldn't tell. Dorothy was still screaming, and he was choking on his own death. The next swing of the axe brought a curious sound, the scrape of metal upon metal and an almost comical crumpling. The axe blade was sharp, and though I had connected with the top right side of his head, I had actually cut through diagonally all the way down to the lower left side of his jaw. I couldn't help but laugh. He looked so funny, almost as if he was eating the blade of the axe. And how much more could possibly pour out of his wounds? "Careful, Dorothy! At this rate, we might drown." It was only then that I noticed that my Dorothy was no longer screaming. The poor girl had collapsed upon herself. She quite literally screamed herself unconscious. Silly girl. How she must have worried for me. I gathered the blanket and pillow she had been using, picked her up, and carried her a little ways away from the aftermath. I dropped the pillow and laid her gently down, kissed her forehead, and wrapped the blanket around her as best I could, like a father would do for his child. Adrenaline made it hard to be still, but laying my head upon her chest and holding her tightly to me, I soon found myself breathing normally again. I kissed her forehead, and knowing this was the moment her and I had waited so long for, I finally kissed her lips, briefly and softly, though that made the taste no less sweet. The thought of her lips. I can write no more for now. Night. The month and day elude me. I can only tell sun from moon, and will finish the rest of this journal accordingly. Laying beside my true love, I finally fell asleep. I don't know when exactly, and I certainly can't say for how long. Perhaps a few hours, perhaps an entire day. When I finally awoke, I realized that Dorothy was in some sort of shock. She just laid there, limp, open-eyed, and barely breathing. I tried to sit her up, but she kept falling back over. No strength left in my beautiful rag doll. I propped her, sitting up against a tree, and angled her head in a way where we could make eye contact while I sat beside her. And oh, how I tried to wake her. I sang to her, I held her hand, I told jokes, and I finally confessed all my feelings for her. She wouldn't answer, though in her eyes I could see the love she had for me. Faint, but true, dim, but still alive. I told her I would find us food and drink and be right back to help her. I searched and searched, but found nothing. And then, just as panic was starting to settle in, I heard a sound. I knew this sound well, as I had spent many a night listening to its restless beating. I followed the sound past the charred remains of a campfire, past the heap of rusting metal, and past the body of Dorothy's pet. "Toto, play dead." The dog remained motionless. "Good girl." The box containing the heart of the Tin Man opened with ease, and the heart within was beating as loudly and strongly as ever. and though it had a slightly bitter taste, I felt much better after finally getting some food in me. Dorothy was much more stubborn. I tried to force small pieces down her throat. Somehow, even in her catatonic state, she resisted. She moaned, and tears rolled down her unblinking eyes. I told her it was for her own good. I told her it was our only hope for survival. I told her, the airplane is coming and you should open your mouth. Zoom! But alas, the poor girl just isn't that hungry. So be it, my love. More for me. That night I was gripped with such incredible pains of the stomach. Looking through this journal, I see I had thought myself to be dying. I think I had a fever as well, hence the ramblings about death and maggots. I must have been quite sick, as I remember nothing before finally waking up some undetermined amount of time later. I immediately went to Dorothy's side. Sorry, my love. I've been quite ill. Perhaps it was heartburn. Get it? She didn't laugh, on the account of she was dead. Starvation, I would assume, though I can't say for sure. She was missing an eye. I assumed some small bird or beast had plucked it as a snack or souvenir. I loved her. I always have, and I always will. Night. I'm off to the city. Having come this far, it doesn't seem right to not finish the journey. The heart is gone. I've licked the proverbial plate clean. But with an appetite like mine, I knew I'd need something for the road. I couldn't stop thinking about our first kiss. The way her lips felt against mine. And the taste. God, she tasted so good. I loved her to pieces. And now, having carved her up quite nicely with the man of Tin's axe, I suppose I will love her in pieces. Pieces of pieces, to be more precise. Lips and bits of fingertips and Dorothy! Why, I always said you had such great taste. So, her and I are off to see the magic man. I'm thinking this axe's blade is still sharp enough to grant me entry to the city. And still sharp enough to persuade him to teach me the ways of his magic. Imagine what fun we could have, Dorothy! Perhaps I will find the cowardly man-lion somewhere down the road. Perhaps he might dine with Dorothy and I. So easily frightened. Once he sees this axe, I'll give him a choice. Try the meat, or meet the metal. Come, Dorothy! Let them come to know our story.
Let us tell them of our love. Let us properly greet the people of the city. Just follow the brightly bricked road.